Hi. As of May 25th, just 10% of the population in India has been vaccinated. The average figure is a little over 5% in Asian countries and less than 2% in African nations. In contrast, Israel had vaccinated nearly 68% of their population. The figures are 56% in the United Kingdom and nearly 49% in the United States. Why is there such a disparity? Well, the figures here are a reflection of the growing divide in access to vaccination and other COVID-19 medical care between the world's richest countries and the other nations. As of early May, 45% of the total vaccination doses were administered to just 16% of the world population who belong to the high-income countries. And the same high-income countries have booked more than half of the vaccinations that will be manufactured in the coming months. And so this also means that the world's poorest 92 countries will not be able to reach a vaccination rate of 60% until 2023 or even later. This is bad news for the whole world. The only way to fight the COVID-19 pandemic is to stop the spread of the virus. And here, vaccinations play an important role. If populations across the world are not given equal access to vaccines, then there are greater chances of the virus spreading, mutating, and creating more resistant strains, like how it happened in India, South Africa, Brazil, UK, etc. To simply put it, the more delay there is in vaccination availability, the longer the virus stays and the more our economies are impacted. So what is really stopping the world population from consistently getting access to vaccines? It's money. A handful of big pharma companies are controlling patents to the COVID-19 vaccines, limiting its manufacture and supply. In fact, some developing countries are also being made to pay more for the vaccines. South Africa, for example, is buying Oxford AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine at 2.5 times the price than it was sold to the European Union. There are 7.8 billion people in the world gripped by the pandemic, but vaccines have been produced for approximately 8.3% of the population. Why is this blocking being allowed, especially when manufacturing units are lying vacant? This is because of TRIPS, or trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. In a nutshell, TRIPS, passed in 1995 by the World Trade Organization, protects the ownership rights of multinational companies. For example, in 1998, 39 multinational companies sued the South African government for using a drug formula to combat the AIDS epidemic, which they claimed was a violation of TRIPS. But before TRIPS, countries were able to regulate pharmaceutical production to meet the needs of the larger masses. India, for example, had banned patenting of pharmaceutical products, which allowed it to produce life-saving drugs at a fraction of the cost, making it more accessible for the people in desperate need. But now with TRIPS, the global north and a handful of big pharma companies are controlling the supply of these drugs. This, despite the products being developed using existing technologies, data from public sector workers and institutions, as well as public funding. So in October 2020, 8 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, India and South Africa approached the WTO seeking a temporary waiver of TRIPS on COVID-19 vaccinations, drugs, tests, and equipment like ventilators. The waiver would also provide legal confidence to the governments that are otherwise scared of getting sued under TRIPS. As expected, several developed countries have opposed the waiver, claiming it will affect innovation, research, and even jobs. It has been over 6 months since the proposal remains stalled in the WTO. Countries opposing the waiver argued that WTO rules already allow compulsory licensing during public health crisis under something called TRIPS flexibilities. True, but this process is extremely complex and time-consuming, something that doesn't work in a global emergency such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And even when countries attempt to use these flexibilities, they are met with retaliation from powerful pharma companies. So on June 8th and 9th, the TRIPS Council is set to meet to discuss the waiver. The Director General of the WTO has said that she hopes there could be a decision by December. In the midst of a pandemic, we don't have time as we are losing lives by the minute. So stand in solidarity to demand TRIPS waiver on COVID-19 vaccines. Your support could save lives. Greenpeace India joins voices with global allies to demand the waiver. Sign the open letter and spread the word. No one is safe until everyone is safe.